Hello everyone, and welcome to another edition of What's on My Desk. I'm sure you guys are asking what's Roman up to now, hiding behind a big black box. Well, I will get into that in a moment, but today's theme is going to be watches that are both dressy and sporty. That sort of perfect combination. They can be a dress watch with a suit, or they can be worn with a pair of jeans, a sweatsuit, and a pair of sneakers. And I'm going to show you a few which I feel are exactly that. But first, let me get this out of my way so you guys can see me. Let's just slide this guy to the side. Ugh, it's a big box. So what did I bring with me? I brought with me an IWC 5001 in rose gold, which is the 7-day power reserve. I actually discussed this watch in the past. I just never really, I think, brought it on the show. It's actually one of my favorite dressless sports watches. I also brought with me the Harry Winston Premier X Center Time Zone watch in white gold. And I brought a big black box, which I'll show you what's in there later.
Oh, what's in the box?
I'm going to start with the Harry Winston X Center Dual Time. What makes this a perfect dress/sports watch? Well, right off the bat, the watch is on a strap. The minute you see a watch on a strap, it's particularly a leather strap, an exotic leather strap, right off the bat, you tend to think that, hey, this is a dress watch, and rightfully so. Anytime you put a watch on a strap, sort of goes well with a suit, a shirt, or in a more of a formal environment. This is a time zone watch, so you have the time is shown an offset dial here. It has your home day-night indicator down here, big open date, and it has a retrograde second time zone display, which I can change with the press of this button here. And I'm going to show you the retrograde functionality because it's actually not to be taken lightly. It's very easy to put a regular second time zone indicator, but to do it in a retrograde fashion where it has to jump back at the minute it hits 24, it's actually pretty cool. Check that out. Ready? And there it goes. Automatic movement, white gold. Now what makes this the Premier X Center is obviously the unmistakable design of the case, dating back to some of their older models that still carry sort of these lines, or I call these ears that sort of stick out of the case towards the lock system that unmistakably makes this a Premier X Center. A watch that's designed extremely well, undoubtedly screams Harry Winston. Good looking watch overall. They also come in rose gold, but I actually personally like the white dial better just because aesthetically it's more pleasing to the eye to me. It's just very clean looking watch with a hell of a complication. Dress watch or sports watch? Well, let's put it on the wrist. It's not too large, but it's not too small. It's 41 millimeters. So it can very well be a dress watch. So a sports watch in regards to size. From afar, it looks like a dress watch. If you take a closer look with everything that's going on the dial, it very well may be a sports watch. So as far as I'm concerned, if you're out there looking for a dress/sports watch, this Harry Winston is definitely a hell of an option to go both ways. Retail price, $41,400. Sounds a bit hefty, but it's really not. If you compare it to some of the other guys out on the market, you take a white gold watch, which is a GMT with a day-night display, big date, automatic. It actually fits the bill in regards to the price, but because it's Harry Winston, you can find deals on these watches. You can probably find them online upwards of half price should you decide to get out and get one. So definitely a pretty decent deal at around $20-some thousand for a watch that's pretty versatile. Moving on to the IWC 5001, probably one of my favorite watches from IWC altogether, or I should say the Portuguese line. And I briefly touched upon the history of Portuguese line. Again, a watch that was originally made out of a pocket watch because it had to be super precise for a couple of merchants that wanted a very, very precise watch. And again, I'll link the episode. You can get a little bit of history about the Portuguese. I'm not going to get into it now. So the 5001 is a 7-day power reserve automatic Portuguese from IWC. Why do I love this watch so much? Because it's a watch that's not that big, but it comes off very big. Why does it come off very big? Being 42 millimeters, again, by today's standard, it is a large watch, yes, I agree, but there's a lot of behemoths out there that are 44, 45, 48 millimeters. So 42 is sort of becoming a normal size, more or less. But what makes this watch seem larger than what it is the fact that it virtually has no bezel on the watch. The entire watch is the dial. And what I personally love about this watch, specifically this combination in rose gold and white dial, is how clean this watch looks. You have your date at 6 o'clock, seemingly hiding, not extremely visible, but it is visible when you want to look at what date it actually is. You have your seconds at 9 o'clock. You have your power reserve at 3 o'clock. And then you have the applied gold numerals along with the gold hands to match, that entirely match the case, giving it an overall super clean look. The stark white dial It seems like the seconds dial and the power reserve dial are very, very underplayed. In fact, what you see right off the bat is sort of that red, where right now the watch is actually in the red, so it only has about a half a day of power reserve left. But notice how everything is sort of downplayed, and the only thing you really tend to see is you see a thin line, which is supposed to be the bezel, the hands are the applied numerals, and it's extremely, extremely easy to read what time is on the watch because of how clean this watch is. And this is the reason why this watch is actually one of my favorite IWCs out there, as far as I'm concerned. As far as this versatility of being sporty yet dressy, theoretically, this is the dress watch. This is not even a chronograph. Although at a first glance, when you look at the watch, it comes off as if it's a chronograph because of the two subdials that you have at 9 and 3 o'clock. Traditionally, this is what a chronograph would have, but it's not. I'm gonna put this watch on the wrist. Even on the wrist, if you look at the swatch, it seems to scream as if it's a dress watch, but because of its size, its thickness, the overall 42 millimeter size, the fact that it kind of looks like a chronograph from afar, if you don't know what you're looking at, to me this also screams a sporty watch. The way I identify sporty versus dressy watch is really by the way the watch looks. I mean, aesthetically, both of these watches can be either or as far as I'm concerned. It can either be a dress watch or it can be a sports watch, which means you can wear this either with a suit or a pair of jeans or even a tracksuit if you choose to. I wear my watches however I see fit. I have no boundaries as far as what watch I should wear with what. But I'm also not a big fan of a lot of dressy watches out there, right? So I'm often wearing bulky APs. And the rare occasions that I do put on the suit instead of a t-shirt, which is not white for a change today, right? Instead of a t-shirt, I will reach for something like an IWC because it still gives me that big bulky look, but yet it still goes well with a suit, a shirt, and a tie. And same would go for this Harry Winston. Just very, very versatile as far as dressy and sporty. Now, moving right along, what if you wanted to have the best of both worlds? A watch that is dressy and sporty, and oftentimes guys tend to identify dressy versus sporty based on metals, stainless steel versus gold. Oftentimes guys will identify, hey listen, when I want to go dressy, I want a gold watch, specifically yellow or rose. And if it's a sporty watch, it's going to be a steel watch. So the surprise of the day is the big black box. What did I bring in this big black box? Well, let's open it up.
What's in the fucking box?
Alrighty then. I brought with me a set of Panerai watches. And this is the PAM 398 and the PAM 399 Radiomir 1940, collectively known as the PAM 784 as a set. And I'm gonna get this opened up. I'm gonna try to pop this up on the screen so you guys can see this. I'm gonna take these out of the box, out of their box, because just no way I'm gonna be able to do this with this box on the screen. And I'm back. Let me move this out of the way. So the set of the watch is collectively known as the PAM 784, which comprises of PAM 398 and PAM 399. Watches are exactly the same, right? I mean, they're pretty much identical with the exception that this is rose gold and this is stainless steel. And I guess the one key difference to note is that the stainless steel comes on a regular tank buckle with the old style vintage feel, whereas the rose gold comes on a deploying buckle, which is a newer style deploying buckle. What are these based on? Again, not to go dive too deep into history, the 1940 Radiomir case is based on the model that was produced, I guess, around the 1930s. Of course, the old 1930s models, those are the ones that had the lugs that were soldered onto the case. It had a mesh strap that was actually stitched onto those lugs, which you couldn't really remove. Obviously, nowadays, Panerai has stepped that up a notch. You can remove and change all these straps. And also, I think back then, they had a bunch of numbers going around the dial where they sort of cleaned this up and they just put numbers of 12, 6, and 3, and they put stick markers, making this dial less busy and a lot more readable. Other than that, the watches are exactly the same. What do they house? They house the famous Minerva movement. You guys know Minerva is a movement company. It's been around for a long time. They're owned by the Richmond Group, and they're a powerhouse in making old world, old finished movements. And this Minerva movement is no exception. It is an absolutely gorgeous movement. I'm showing it to you on a stainless steel watch because that one has some kind of sticker over it. I don't feel like removing it. So Minerva movement, which is very coveted by collectors. Limited edition of 100 pieces. Each watch is actually numbered something out of 100, right? Then what they did is they took 50 pieces and set them aside, or 25 sets, and they made it as a limited edition to celebrate Tarassio's 25th anniversary. He was a distributor in Italy for Panerai or something like that. In either case, that's not that important. Bottom line is that this is a highly coveted collectible set from Panerai. When these came out, everybody was going crazy over this set, but the price was really hefty. This set retails for $81,000, which is expensive. Yeah, granted you get a nice big box. This is a nice little watch with the Minerva movement. You know, a set. There's not a whole whole lot of sets out there, and guys that want to get out there and get sets are not that easy to find. And those that have bought them kept them for the most part. Nevertheless, we're still selling the set, I think, somewhere in the mid-40s. So it's a hell of a discount for something that's supposed to be that coveted and that collectible. You get out there and Google the stuff and you look at the guys that are selling this on boards and they're like, super coveted, highly collectible, impossible to find. They're absolutely correct. They are impossible to find, but there's a price for everything. Nobody out there is going to be paying $80-some thousand for two Panerais, regardless of how special they may be, regardless of how limited they may be. Those days are unfortunately gone. But nevertheless, this is a cool set. And it brings me back to my original point. How are you going to tell me that this is a dress watch? It's really not. But there's a lot of guys, and myself included, that will often take a look at a gold watch and say, you know what, because it's gold, it's a dressy watch, or a dressier watch, I should say. And, you know, I'm one of those guys. I tend to stick with the fact that a watch, the minute you put watch in a precious metal, and I don't mean white gold, I mean a precious metal that's visible, I mean yellow gold or rose gold such as this one, automatically tends for me to lean towards the dressier side. And even though these watches are absolutely identical, the minute that I put the stainless steel piece on my wrist, this screams jeans, shorts, sneakers, tracksuit, etc., etc. But let me switch that to a gold, and all of a sudden it has a completely different effect. Even though it's exactly the same watch, all of a sudden this tends to look a little bit dressier all of a sudden. Even though it's a huge, bulky Panerai, still, for some reason, to me anyway, when I see a watch in gold, all of a sudden it tells me special event, tells me suit, it tells me a little more dressed up, something more than sneakers and jeans as far as I'm concerned. Now, let me just put the two side by side to get a comparison. Again, two absolutely identical watches, but yet if you had to choose and tell me which one is sporty, which one is dressy, you'd probably say that this is definitely sporty, well, this is definitely gold. And this is sort of just to show that it's not necessarily just particular looks of the watch, of how they look and feel, where they can be on a strap, yet they can still feel sporty, even though it's supposed to be a dressy watch like this Harry Winston, because it is dubbed a dressy watch. Or the IWC, which is also dubbed a dressy watch, but yet it looks so much more on the sportier side. Well, here's two perfect examples for you of a watch that's exactly the same, that is definitely a sporty watch. Panerai does not make dressy watches. You say Panerai, you think big, bulky, sporty watches, right? But yet, for some reason, this particular watch in the rose gold can still have that dressy feel versus its counterpart in stainless steel. You guys tell me, comment below, let me know your thoughts, let me know what you think. Let me know what you would consider. Would you consider these watches sporty or dressy? The Harry Winston, the IWC, or either one of these Panerais? I would love to hear that from you, so comment below. Other than that, I'm gonna take these two watches, repack them back in that big ass box, and as always, don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you're not already subscribed. Hit the like button if you like this video. Share it with your friends that you think may like the content that I put out in regards to watches, and I'll see you guys next week for more watch reviews and other videos.